A birthday card, a handwritten note passed down the hall, and a congratulatory letter on your achievement. What do these things have in common? They're all forms of communication. Today I'm here to inform you about one of the longest standing forms of communication, the United States Postal Service. You can send letters, packages, and so much more, and it all began in the 17th century with the American colonies. Unofficially, the start of the United States Postal Service started with the colonies after they settled in America. They needed to speak to England, and thus created the first transcontinental service of mail. In 1775, the Second Continental Congress created the official United States Postal Service and appointed Benjamin Franklin as the first Postmaster General. Benjamin Franklin helped make the United States Postal Service have more efficient routes, faster delivery time, and helped make a deal with the newspapers across America. Congressional Digest agrees with me in stating that Franklin was himself a newspaper publisher, but in 1758 he provided for all the newspaper to be carried by the mail at a fixed postal rate. In 1792, the U.S. Post Office Department was formed, and in 1825, they already had a dead letter office, which is where any undeliverable mail was sent to be handled. In 1842, the City Dispatch of New York was formed, as well as them getting a postmaster's provisional, which is essentially a stamp just for them for prepayment of mail. Next up was the star routes. They were called star routes, determining on where they were located. The star routes were given to poor farmers to help them with their financial needs because they were deemed more trustworthy because they needed the funds. As for postage stamps, no one says it better than Daniel Ropes, who's a former Postmaster General. He states the Act of 1847 authorized the official induction of the postage stamp into our postal systems. By this time, the use of the envelopes was becoming common, and the prepayment of postage was already established. Therefore, 1847 is when we got our stamps. The 1850s brought about a bunch of changes. There was collection mailboxes on light poles, stamped envelopes, and a registered mail service. Not to mention, now prepayment was mandatory at this time. Next up on the Pony Express. This is where the mail traveled from one side of the country to the other. Congressional Digest explains better, as the Pony Express only lasted 16 months. The high cost of operating the service exceeded the amount of the revenue obtained by the service. But the transcontinental telegraph kind of killed the Pony Express, making it obsolete. In 1864, railroad post offices were created, making mail time so much faster. In 1874, there was General Postal Union, which later became Universal Postal Union that still stands today. The 1890s were filled with standing mailboxes, bye-bye light poles, and royal free delivery. By the 1900s, we had new services as well as discontinuing old services. 1911 brought about the postal savings system, which lasted until around 1966. It was a way to bank with your postal service if you didn't already have a bank. 1916, stagecoach robberies were on the rise. It was insanity the amount of stagecoaches that had been robbed. The U.S. Postal Inspectors were able to catch the last known stagecoach robber by using the mail delivery system. By 1918, we had airmail. Who would have ever thought of that at that time? And by 1920, one of the largest U.S. postal services, Pitney Bowes, was formed. The 1950s brought about all of the changes. Mailboxes became mandatory. You got in trouble if you didn't have one. Trans-Pacific airmail became a thing. Hey, who knew we could go across the Atlantic and the Pacific? Highway post offices were created, as well as V-mail, which is a more secure way to get in contact with the soldiers of World War II. 1955 brought about certified mail, where you get a receipt and a mailing order showing where your mail was processed. 1957, we had a citizen stamp advisory committee that chose our stamp's design. Every year, there was a new one. Pretty cool. By 1959, the United States tried something called missile mail, where they attached mail to a rocket, tried to flow it to their destination. After numerous cost-worthy and failed attempts, they gave up with the idea, thank goodness. By 1960, we had zip codes and priority mail. In 1970, sadly, we ended the highway and railroad offices, as well as the Postal Reorganization Act was enacted. It changed about many rules and regulations of the postal system. In 1982, we had e-com, which was a form of electronic communication sent to the mailing office and then sent in real life, as well as the Zip4, which was a new way to encode zip codes in your life. In 1985, we had the first U.S. Deputy Postmaster General that was a woman. Her name was Jackie Strage. And that brings us to the current century of the 2000s, where there's been two major changes to the United States Postal Office. In 2006, Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act was enacted. Rules, regulations, postal rates, and they even had to change their retiree funds. They had to add more money, change the postal rates, and due to inflation, prices went up. As you can see in the chart that I have here, we start with 1863 and run all the way to 2007. Each year increasing in price of the postal rates for both the blue, which was letters, and the orange, which was packages. Either way, every year the price rose and continues to do so. This is due to inflation as well as the new protocols with the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act. As for 2007 is our second major change of the 2000s. The United States Postal Service created a non-denominated stamp, also known as the forever stamp, because it never expires. Overall, I think Anthony Frank, another previous Post General Master, states it well. The Postal Service is an old and established public institution that is a vital link to the economic and social life of the United States. The United States Postal Service has impacted many lives and continues to do so up until this day. I hope I've been able to inform you of the postal world today and you take your information forward with you. Thank your local mailman. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.